What's happening, YouTube? Back in the day gamer here. Thanks for tuning into my channel for another episode of What's Happening YouTube. Today we're going to be talking about old games versus new games. Which one do I like better? So since we're talking about old stuff versus new stuff, I've got a Dr. Pepper here, which is old stuff. But it's a strawberries and cream Dr. Pepper, which is new stuff. I just heard about this, and I was hungry to get my hands on it. So we're going to drink it today for this episode of What's Happening YouTube. Dr. Pepper, strawberries and cream. I predict good things because Dr. Pepper. It's good. I get more strawberry than Dr. Pepper. But either way, you can't go wrong, right? So, old games versus new games. As you all well know, back in the day, gamer, almost primarily, plays games from back in the day. Now, to clarify, we're talking about Atari 2600, Nintendo, you might call it the NES, I call it the Nintendo, Sega Master System, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Game Gear, Game Boy Advance. I have one TurboGrafx 16 game, Pac-Land, because Pac-Land. N64. I haven't played that in a long time, but I was alive when it came out back in the day. Game Boy Advance. That's my new thing apparently. Then we've got PlayStation. When I say PlayStation, I mean the original PlayStation, because back in the day when that came out, there was only PlayStation. There was no PS2, 3, 4, 5, all that stuff. Xbox. When I say Xbox, I mean the original Xbox. The old green dot. Because that's all there was. I think there's Xbox 360 and I think there's Xbox One. I don't know. I've never played them. I actually have played Xbox 360 once. Angry Baby is going nuts over there. Someone gave one to me and I picked up the Game of Thrones video game and I didn't like it that much. So I got rid of it and that was that. Then PlayStation 2. Hey, Angry Baby, thanks for deciding to go crazy right when I start filming. Shit. Should we start over? Nah, we're not going to start over. We talked about all those systems. You know what I'm talking about, the old school ones. The only new video games back in the day gamer plays is a Switch. When Switch first came out, they were porting all kinds of old arcade games to it. And I was like, oh yeah. Basically, I don't emulate, so that takes that off the table. But other than emulation, the only way to play these games would be on an actual arcade cabinet. And yeah, not practical. So I got myself a Switch. The wife bought me a Switch. I probably never would have bought one, but I'm glad she did because it's awesome. Not only are there the old arcade games they ported to it, you can play original Nintendo and Super Nintendo games on them, even though I don't because I have them. But I've started to pick up some new games. Not too many, couple dozen, mostly digital download, which I don't like. But the greatest game I've played of all times. Bearing in mind, I play primarily 8-bit and 16-bit games. So, you know, that takes a lot off the table. Octopath Traveler. Holy shit. Is Octopath Traveler a fantastic game. Best game I ever played. Which kind of brings me to what started this. Octopath Traveler 2. Still in the wrappings because, yes, have not yet played it. But the Switch has turned me on to some new games. Not a lot, but some. And that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, so this past weekend, had Saturday off. Sat on my ass and played some video games a lot. Normally, I'm here in the game room playing the 16-bit era. The Switch is in the living room over there. It's part of the reason why I hardly ever play it, but I felt like I wanted to sit my ass on that couch. So that's where I was sitting. I was like, oh, let's play Switch. So I was like, let's kick some backlog ass, because as you know, I vowed to stop rage quitting games and finish a game, stick with it. It has drastically hampered the amount of games I finish and has raised my blood pressure and anger level, but I'm sticking to it and I'm glad that I have. That being said, I was like, all right, let's check off some of these backlog games. They were digital downloads, so I don't have a physical copy to show you, which I hate. But doesn't mean we can't talk about them, because through the wonder of television, we can have gameplay. Fight and Rage. First game I decided to kick off the backlog. Holy shit, is this game fantastic. Now, back in the day, gamer doesn't really play many beat-em-ups. This just happens to obviously be a beat-em-up, and it is fantastic. So many things I like about this game. There's generally 3 things that stand out to every video game I like. And those are the kind of things I use to rate games. First is graphics, because I like shiny things. This game's graphics are fantastic. Another thing I really like about the Switch is how they make new games that have this old game style. Pixelated, you can't say this is 16-bit, I don't know, maybe 32, but that pixelated style of graphics, which makes a new game look older. As you can see, the graphics on this game are fantastic. The characters are great. The guy that I picked to fight, this big bull minotaur guy, just kicks ass. He looks awesome. But the little touch about this game that really makes the graphics stand out is how they make the TV look like you're playing an actual arcade cabinet. How it's got the rounded corners to make it look like you're staring at that arcade screen. Man, that is a fucking fantastic touch. So we got the graphics covered on this game. Kick ass. Controls. Controls on new games are almost always awesome because they're new games. Obviously the controls are super important, because if a game controls poorly, it's gonna suck to play. And that's really important. Probably a lot more important than graphics. But I like shiny things. Third thing that I use to rate video games are the soundtrack. Now, I've said many times that often I'm playing games with the volume off because I'm jamming some 80s hair metal, but when I do have the volume on, sound is important. And new games, or at least the new games I've played, are almost always extra fantastic and blow the old games out of the water. So those are the 3 main things I use to judge a video game, but you should probably really take sound out of there, because often I don't even have it on, like I said, and that would be replaced by gameplay. So obviously gameplay is really important, right? I mean, who cares how good the graphics are, how good the controls are, and how good it sounds if the gameplay sucks? That's where new games, or the new games I've played, kind of turn me off a lot. Bearing in mind, all of the new games I've played are Switch games, and a lot of them are cheaper games that I thought looked cool on the eShop, so I got them. So bearing in mind where we're coming from, a bitter old man who doesn't like new shit. That's what we've got to work with. A lot of those games have just been fantastic, though. Off the top of my head, Infernax, my god, the fucking game was awesome. If you haven't played Infernax, play Infernax. Graphics, controls, gameplay, sound, all of them. Boom. Loved it. A game I didn't love, which maybe we'll get some footage for. Maybe we won't. Always Awakening. I thought I'd really love it. It's got that older graphic style, throwback. It's Legend of Zelda-esque. Win. I don't know, I found a lot of backtracking, got stuck a lot, Angry Baby wasn't in love with it either. I gave up on it. I didn't rage quit, but I just got bored going over the same fucking screens over and over trying to find the tiny secret I needed, so I just gave it up. He's fucking going nuts over there. We could roll through a million other games, but the example we'll use for the new games is Fight and Rage. Fuck, that game's sweet. So, sat on my ass on the couch this weekend, beat that. Felt pretty good. So actually towards the end of it, I was at the end of it already, but I had rage quit and gave up because the fucking end boss was so damn hard. I don't use save states, so just tabled it, took it out Saturday. Boom! Very happy. Like I said, Fight and Rage, kicked ass. So that's my example of a new game. An example of an old game, just the old game I beat before that. That's how I chose this. Not a favorite of mine or something I hated. This just happened to be the game that I beat before that. So we're going to talk about Journey to Silius on the Nintendo. So this isn't a review of the game, but, you know, as you all know, it's rumored to have supposed to have been a Terminator game. It is renowned to be NES tough, powerfully difficult. Everyone raves about the soundtrack and whatnot, so I found the graphics to be good, above average for a Nintendo. You know, we are talking about the Nintendo 8-bit. It's not going to stand up to Fight and Rage here, but, you know, the graphics were just fine. There was nothing stellar, there was some good parts, there was some bland parts, but I give it average, above average on the graphics department. The controls were good. There was some mechanics to them which weren't perfect, but once again, we're talking about old shit, you know? So it's not going to compare to the Switch Fight and Rage game, but they definitely held their own for the most part. They were good. They were above average for a Nintendo game. The sound was, once again, above average for a Nintendo game. I didn't seem to like it as much as everyone else. All I heard was nothing but praise. Yeah, it was good. It was above average again, but I didn't absolutely love it. I didn't think it was some drop-dead, standout score that I'd be listening to in my car when I would, not that I would do that anyway, because I'd be jamming some old school 80s rock. But anyhow, you know, graphics, controls, sound, all average to above average. Gameplay, I found to be very fun. Can you hear this? He's going nuts. This is the time. Yeah, hi, buddy. Hi. Can I finish talking to my friends real quick? I'm almost done, I promise. I'm just going to finish talking about this, then we're going to talk about one more game. Is that cool? I'll give you more candy. So, graphics, controls, sound, average to above average. Gameplay. I found the gameplay to be very enjoyable, somewhat addicting. I really found myself just wanting to beat this game because everybody talked about how tough it was, and I wanted to take it out. And I did. I found it to be difficult, but not nearly as difficult as everyone said. There was a certain board that was a super pain in the ass, but not near anything like Ghosts and Goblins or beating Mike Tyson. So I've got that Journey to Silius notch on my bedpost now. But so, new game, old game. Yes, I am Dada. Dada plays video games when you let him. So, the last game I'm going to talk about, which we'll probably need to make brief because he's done with this. After I beat Fight and Rage, sitting my ass on the couch, I was like, I'm going to beat Alex Kidd in Miracle World. Now, obviously I have it on the Sega Master System, but I've been playing it on the Switch because when they re-released it like a year ago or something, they redid the graphics, and I was like, oh, I'm all about that, because I always loved that game. It was the first Sega Master System game I'd ever played. I think it was the first Sega Master System game I'd ever seen. But, so it was always a big nostalgia thing for me. It's also a good game. It was their, I don't know if it was answer to Mario, because I think it came out before Mario, but it was their Mario before Sega Genesis made Sonic their flagship guy. But who's played Alex Kidd in Miracle World? Anybody? when I heard they were remaking it with new graphics, I had to get my hands on it. So to play it right away, I bought a digital download, which disappoints me, but it is what it is, and I got it. I really like the new style graphics. I think they kick ass. They look really, really good. But since apparently I'm just such a crotchety old man, I can't change my ways. Even though with the push of a button, you switch between new and old to new, I played it on old like the whole time. So this is a new old game. Talk about a new game, talk about an old game, talk about a new old game. So I'm not sure where this fits in, but let's throw it in there and see, okay? Whether I played the new graphics or the old graphics, I guess we'll talk about the new one. The new graphics in this. They're fantastic. It's the Switch, obviously it's fantastic. When the original one came out, you can't say the graphics are fantastic, because they're not, even for that time, but I always liked them. Not sure what it was about it, always liked them. The controls. The controls are not great. Not great. And that's because it's from the old game, I would imagine. They didn't change the controls. It's from the old Alex Kidd controls, and those are not fantastic. As a matter of fact, they're pretty damn brutal. But since I'm used to them, because I've been playing the game for fucking decades, you know, I pounded my way through it. But they have something, they lack something to be desired. Sound, like the sound. I believe, I don't know, I played it on old the whole time, so I can't recall if the sound changed when you were playing it old or playing it new. I don't know, but the sound was always good for that game. Maybe it wasn't a showstopper, but I always liked it. Bringing us to gameplay. Now, I also like the gameplay. I always did, but that's because I grew up with it. You may not like the gameplay. The hit detection's not fantastic. Not fantastic at all. The jumping goes under controls, but that's also not fantastic. So I guess you can't really compare this game to the others because it's a old new game, but Alex Kidd Miracle World, still a good game. I guess you're gonna want to play it on the new mode though, if you're just getting into it. So obviously, being the crotchety old man that I am, I prefer old games. Oh, keeping in mind the small amount of new games I have played, but for the most part, the ones I have played, I love. For the most part. Octopath Traveler being the greatest game I ever played. Really looking forward to Octopath Traveler 2. Really looking forward to it. It's killing me. I'm currently still slogging my way through Phantasy Star, so I can't start another RPG until I finish that one. But this one just jumped to the top of the list for sure. So, preferring old games, aside from being crotchety and old and stuck in my ways and nostalgia, the thing I don't like about new games, the ones that I have played, bearing in mind, for the most part, they're usually too fucking easy. That doesn't mean they're simple. A lot of times they are simple. Most of the time, they're just fucking easy. All you need to do is just sit and play. You like hardly ever get stuck at anything. And where's the challenge, right? Where's the challenge? Growing up playing this old shit, I guess, has something to do with why I'm not a pussy. Sorry if you're a pussy, but I said it. No, the thing that I dislike most about new games, though, I'm not sure how to explain it, but they seem kind of cheap. The ones that I don't like, just they don't rope me in. So you're just playing, and just feels like no substance. It's just like I'm playing, and since there's not much of a challenge or anything, after a while I'm just like, I don't want to play anymore, and that sucks. This definitely has happened with many old games as well. Just because a game's old doesn't mean I love it and I'm all about playing it. God. Thinking about it, I'm probably just digging myself a deeper hole, because this big wild Nintendo up here, most of these games fucking suck. But some of them are so damn good, they stand the test of time, and they keep me playing them 30 plus years later. So if you're a new game player, I don't like to say gamer, I just don't, but if you're mostly playing new games, try some old ones. Suggestions off the top of my head? The original Legend of Zelda. Yeah, the original Legend of Zelda. If you're going to Super Nintendo, Link to the Past, we don't want to beat the Zelda thing to death, but Sega Genesis? Shit, what's my favorite Sega Genesis game? I don't know. I don't give Sega Genesis enough love. And for that alone, whatever video I do next, it's going to be about the Sega Genesis. So we're leaving it at that. Before I go, tell me some new games on the Switch, because it's all I have, that I simply must play to possibly change my opinion. But you're not going to change it, because I'm old and crotchety. Thanks for tuning into my channel. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And until next time, YouTube, keep it retro!